guys, and welcome back to my channel, A Cinder Story Thriving with Codependency. I was recommended to turn my video sideways, but when I do that, I am no longer looking. So we can try it. You guys let me know what you think because it feels a little awkward. The topic of the video today is going to be, am I codependent? So this is really the first step in my recovery and helping me to thrive with my codependency. So I wrote down a couple things like I want to go through with you guys. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but there's certain basically contributing factors to how a person ends up codependent. So do you feel like you are the sacrificial lamb in your life? Like you do everything you can for everybody else, and you're always putting other people first, yet nothing is perfect. And, aside from perfect, it's not good. So here are some of the things that I wrote down that are signs that you are codependent. So number one would be that your home life as a child was unsafe. Your parents were abusive in domestic violence relationships, or drug addicts or alcoholics, or just, other mental disabilities, schizophrenia, psychopath, living with a narcissist. All of those things are contributing to a person ending up being codependent. Number two would be others always come first in your life. I used to think that that was a good thing. Like I was especially as a Christian, a person that believes in self-sacrifice. I thought, you put other people first, especially my kids all the time. If I had my last $10, like that was definitely going to go to getting something for my kids rather than myself. And I thought that, that's the way to be a good person and to love somebody. And, so that's one of the characteristics. Another would be you are a very mature child. As a child, people are probably often telling you like, "Wow, you're so grown up. You're so intelligent." I know in my family, me and my sister, we were my mom's best friends, and I thought that was perfectly normal. Like we discussed all of our problems, her problems, and we were there for our mom, and that gave me, yeah, a lot of good social skills, but they weren't age appropriate for me at the time. And we can go into that deeper maybe another time about how uh, oversharing with children, and as a codependent, how to interact with your children, because this is usually a generational disease. Whether your parents were codependents themselves, usually that would mean they were with somebody that had strong narcissistic traits, or was a drug addict or abusive, or an alcoholic or something like that, because codependents that are not aware do not attract healthy relationships. So that's a big part of it. Another attribute of a codependent is you can't say no. So you feel like saying no is selfish. You may have found yourself in a lot of situations where people are like, why didn't you just do something about it? Why didn't you just leave? Or like for me, sexual abuse. Like, well, if this thing happened to you, why didn't you fight back, or why didn't you get up and walk away? Well, I grew up feeling like no was not an option for me. Um, I wanted to make everybody happy, and I thought that if I said no, I would upset people, and other people's feelings were more important than mine. Another characteristic of being a codependent is nothing is ever good enough. So most codependents are extremely high achievers or overachievers, or they're managing a lot of tasks at one time, and that is a strong indication, coupled with some of these other characteristics, that you may be a codependent. Sad is not okay. So you grew up thinking that the only people that were allowed to have emotions were your parents or the other dysfunctional people in your life. So if you were crying, you might have heard things like, "Are you a little girl? Don't cry like a little girl," or "Be a man about it," or I heard, "Tell it to the judge," or you were shut down for being emotional. That was a sign of weakness, and that was something that in dysfunctional families they don't deal with issues. That issues are not okay. They hide those things and they ignore the issues. So that's another thing. Um, you grew up with your parents were unreliable, resulting in you thinking that life is not safe. You became accustomed to things not making sense. Like, for example, if you grew up in an alcoholic home, even if daddy or mommy was not a violent drunk, they're happy drunk. Daddy gets drunk and promises tomorrow we're going to Disneyland because daddy's, he's in this great mood. We're going to Disneyland. And you're playing and he's riding you around on his back like a horse and everything's so great. And he goes to the bathroom and, he says, I'll be right back. But instead, he passes out on the bed and you don't see him for the rest of the night. And then you wake up the next day and, hey, Dad, like, come on, it's time to go to Disneyland. Let's go. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? You said we were going to go to Disneyland. Well, I'm sorry, honey. Daddy's sick today. And you don't know why daddy's sick. You know something's wrong, but you don't really know what's wrong. So your whole life is unreliable. People say and do things that don't add up and don't make sense. So that contributes to an individual turning out to be a codependent. Um, another contributing factor is the mentality of who cares, and it kind of goes with along with the thing that I said. If your parents or a strong significant person, a figure in your life, um, belittled your feelings. So if you came to your parent and you said, um, you know, the way that when you say that it makes me feel this way, and they said get over it, or like again stop acting like a baby, um, who cares, right? And nobody really wants to talk about those issues because when people realize there's issues, there's something they're going to have to do about it to change it, right? So, um, who cares was a big mentality in your home growing up. Another really strong contributing factor is the whole do as I say. People were always telling you do as I say, and probably it was coupled with do as I say, not as I do. So it didn't matter how you felt about things. If you were sick, you could be complaining, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. And like, no, you're not. Get up, go to school. Come to find out you have cancer, years later, or you had appendicitis or something like that. But at the time, your concerns and your feelings are not validated. So it's do as I say. Or let's say, you wanna get a tattoo, and or that's kind of more advanced than most teens, but let's say you want to get a piercing and your parent says no, 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 you're not getting a piercing. Well, why, mom? Well, because I said so. So you're not validated in that. So parenting is very much do as I say with no background. And most of us and most of our parents were raised exactly like that. Not only do as I say, but you should be seen and not heard, right? Like, how many times have you guys heard that? So those are some of the things that contribute to a person ending up as a codependent. And the issue with this and how you end up being that sacrificial lamb is that this develops a low self-esteem in a person. You may come across into the world as very confident because we're very good at dealing with problems. Like, you have to rise to the occasion in your family. You were probably the one that had to hold everything together or be there for your parents instead of vice versa. So usually codependents look from the outside pretty successful, or people are giving them compliments like, wow, you can handle so much, or you're such a good person, or you're so kind and giving. And we take that as like, great, that's awesome, and that is awesome, but it has to be applied to the right scenario. So when you have low self-esteem, now you're attracting into your life throughout your adulthood, and if you never get help or understanding or validation of what's going on, you're attracting people that are less than you deserve because you feel you deserve less because you were shown that that was normal. So sometimes when you're becoming self-aware and possibly I may be codependent, you'll realize that like, I don't think I deserve this, or I don't think this is right, but what do I do? Like, what is right? We don't know because that was never modeled to us. like I said in my intro video the other day, saying, what to expect for my channel. The great thing about the internet now is, like, we can find these things out for ourselves. And I'm going to do a video on I'm codependent, what's next, and how, I took certain steps to change that, because I don't want that for my children. And I'm sure there are certain aspects of, codependency that before I was aware still affected my children, and will, probably in the future have some effect on them. But I can make a huge difference in, the cycle being repeated and making my children healthy. So as a codependent, you want to save people because your self-esteem is low, and in your family, you only felt good and validated when you were doing the right things or offering some kind of benefit. So you were either like a scapegoat, or you were a mascot, or you were the hero in the family, but you served some purpose. So we feel like, okay, we serve a purpose. Like, a lot of codependents are nurses, psychologists, counselors, people of sacrificial careers. Um, so you want to save people. And that comes from a root deep inside that, throughout all the therapy throughout my life, no therapist really explained it to me in layman terms. I mean, we would talk about the issues, but not until I started going to Coda and Al Anon did I become aware that I attracted uh, these people because of a deep loneliness and fear of rejection. So I thought, I'll find these people that are struggling and having a hard time. And, I had a hard time, and look, I'm functioning. So I'm going to teach them. And once I teach them and love them enough, they're going to appreciate me, and they're going to love me unconditionally back. I thought everything I did was a selfless, like I was just doing it to be nice. But really, the deep root of it was I desperately wanted to be loved for who I was unconditionally. And I thought, if I love and help other people, they're going to appreciate me, love, and help me back. The problem is, we pick people, um, you know, 99 times out of 100 that are incapable of even loving themselves, let alone loving us back. So they are actually feeding into our um, already ingrained idea that we're not good enough, because you're going to pour in all your time and energy to this other person instead of pouring it into yourself. And that is actually one of the, attributes of a codependent is, we see happiness from outside sources. We seek happiness from outside sources. So, we're going to be trying to help everybody else and not looking at the inside. Like, why is it that I have this strong need and urge to fix everybody else? Because the truth is, there is a deep brokenness inside of us that needs to be fixed, because we wouldn't feel so desperate for love and, go through these crippling depressions, when a relationship doesn't work out, or when our spouse or a parent keeps letting us down and lying to us, or, people aren't changing. Um, and, at the end of the day, the root is us, that we tolerate that kind of behavior. Not only are we tolerating it, but we're attracting it because that's what we think we deserve. When you start to recover and you start to realize your worth and your value, you don't expect, in the Bible it says, don't cast your pearls before swine. You don't go giving your all to something that isn't giving you at least some kind of inclination, other than words, by the way, because a lot of unhealthy relationships are full of great promises. But what's really been going on, that it is exhibiting love, showing love to you. So that's kind of like the gist of that part. I did want to go over some of the patterns and characteristics of what a codependent is, from coda.org, and that has helped me immensely in life. So some of these will apply to you. There's different kinds of codependence, and some of them won't. So if it resonates with you, then you can know that you're in the right spot. Um, so there's denial patterns. It says codependents often have difficulty identifying what they are feeling. They minimize, alter, or deny how they truly feel. They perceive themselves as completely unselfish and dedicated to the well-being of others. They lack empathy for the feelings and needs of others. They label others with their own negative traits. They think they can take care of themselves without the help of anyone else. They mask their pain in various ways, such as anger, humor, isolation. I also learned that sarcasm is a really strong indication that you grew up in a home of dysfunction. They express negativity and aggression in indirect or passive ways. They do not recognize the unavailability of those to whom they are attracted to, which I just mentioned. Low self esteem patterns of codependence are having difficulty making decisions. They judge what they think, say, or do harshly as never good enough, are embarrassed to receive recognition, praise, or gifts. They value others' approval over their own thinking, feelings, and behavior over their own. They do not perceive themselves as lovable or worthwhile persons. They seek recognition and praise to overcome feeling less than. They have difficulty admitting a mistake. They need to appear to be right in the eyes of others and may even lie to look good. They are unable to identify or ask for what they need or want. They perceive themselves as superior to others. They look to others to provide their sense of safety. They have difficulty getting started, meeting deadlines, and completing projects, and have trouble seeking healthy priorities and boundaries. Compliance patterns of codependence are they are extremely excuse me, they are extremely loyal, remaining in harmful situations too long. I've heard that called insane loyalty. I've been there. They compromise their own values and integrity to avoid rejection or anger. They put aside their own interest in order to do what others want. They're hypervigilant regarding the feelings of others and take on those feelings, meaning they are extremely over aware and sensitive to others. Also, some people might call that being an empath. They're afraid to express their beliefs, opinions, and feelings when they differ from others. They often accept sexual attention when they want love. They make decisions without regard to the consequences. They give up their truth to gain the approval of others or to avoid change. Control patterns of codependence. They believe people are incapable of taking care of themselves. They attempt to convince others what to do or feel. They freely offer advice without direction. I'm sorry. They freely offer advice and direction without being asked. They become resentful when others decline their help and reject their advice. Lavish gifts and favors on those who they want to influence. They use sexual attention to gain approval and acceptance. They have to feel needed in order to have a relationship with other people. They use charm and charisma to convince others of their capacity to be caring, compassionate. They use blame, shame to exploit others emotionally. Refuse to cooperate, compromise, or negotiate. They adopt an attitude of indifference, helplessness, authority, or rage to manipulate outcomes. They use recovery jargon and attempt to control the behaviors of others. They pretend to agree with others to get what they want. And lastly, avoidance patterns of codependence. They act in ways that invite others to reject, shame, express anger toward them, judge harshly what others think, say, or do, avoid emotional, physical, or sexual intimacy as a way to maintain distance. They allow addictions to people, places, and things to distract them from achieving intimacy in their own relationships. They use indirect and evasive communication to avoid conflict or confrontation. They diminish their capacity to have healthy relationships by declining to use the tools of recovery, suppress their feelings or needs to avoid feeling vulnerable, pull people toward them, but when others get close, they push them away, refuse to give up their self will to avoid surrendering to a power greater than themselves. They believe displays of emotion are a sign of weakness, and they withhold expressions of appreciation. So, if any of those relate to you, or most of those, or some of those, there's a good chance you may be codependent. So I wanted to let you guys know what codependency is. I love you so much, and continue tuning in with questions, comments, and we're going to be thriving in our codependency. Okay, love you guys. Bye.